First of all, good evening. I'm Mario Cilento. I'm the president of the New York State AFL-CIO, and I want to thank you all for joining us for tonight's very important discussion on how the federal budget reconciliation bill will impact working people across our state and across this country. The New York State AFL-CIO's mission is very simple and very straightforward: to raise the standard of living and quality of life for all working people, whether they're union members or not. And this forum tonight is focused on doing just that. It's part of our broader Fight Back campaign, which is a direct response to the federal budget reconciliation bill. I just have to say, make no mistake about it, this bill could and would have devastating effects on working people across this country. It threatens deep, damaging cuts to Medicaid, to the SNAP program, worker protections, public education, clean energy investments. It includes a 10-year moratorium on regulating artificial intelligence. Think about the fact that 2 or 3 years ago, basically AI didn't even exist. Think about where we are now and think about where we could be 10 years from now and trying to fight back then. We can't allow, and I know that will do everything in our power to not allow any of this to happen. That's why we're here tonight. This is about standing together to raise our voices and fighting for what we all know is right. And we know that here in New York, when the labor movement stands together and joins together and fights together and raises our voices together, we win. Working people win, because together we have the power. Remember that. We have the power to raise that standard of living and quality of life for all working people. That's the reality. And that's what tonight is about. So before we begin, and we're going to begin in a moment, I want to take a moment first to acknowledge, and I want to thank some esteemed guests that we're going to be hearing from in a minute or two. First, we have Senator Chuck Schumer. We have Congresswoman Nydia Velázquez. We are truly grateful to each of you for your leadership, your partnership, your unwavering commitment to the people of New York. And we know that when the labor movement works with our friends in elected office, there's really nothing that we can't accomplish together. And so I want to thank you both for being here tonight. I also want to extend a special thank you to all of the union members who are going to be sharing their stories with us in a few minutes. Your voices tonight are the backbone of this conversation. So here's what to expect. Over the next hour, we're going to do this for 1 hour. We're going to hear from our elected leaders who are on the front lines, who are fighting for us to restore this critical funding. And then we're going to hear from a few of our brothers and sisters who provide the vital services that are potentially going to be gutted by this federal bill, because they know firsthand how these proposed cuts will impact the critical services that they deliver to all of us every single day. So it's pretty straightforward. We'll get right to it. With that, it is an honor and to have a true champion for working people, not just in New York, but across the nation, who's here with us tonight. And I'm talking about Senator Chuck Schumer. Before I introduce the senator, let me tell you something about him. Just personally, I am fortunate to know Senator Schumer for many years and work with him for many years. For those of you who have not had that honor of meeting him or working with him, Chuck Schumer works harder than anyone in politics, bar none. I have no issue saying that. He wears his heart on his sleeve. He leads by example, and he lives by that old adage that all of us in the labor movement believe deeply in our hearts, which is that actions speak louder than words. For Chuck, it's always about taking action. It's about making the lives of New Yorkers and all Americans just tangibly better every single day, whether it's healthcare or education, 9/11 funding, infrastructure, climate change, on and on and on. Chuck Schumer is our friend. He is our advocate, and he's our champion in Washington. And it is my honor to know him, and it is my privilege now to introduce to all of you here this evening our friend, Senator Chuck Schumer.
Thank you, Mario. It's great to be with you. I want to thank New York State AFL-CIO for hosting this, and the great Mario Cilento. I'd like to say right back at you, babe. He works so damn hard, and we talk to each other late at night whenever there's a crisis in one way or the other. He is just there all the time. And you know, the labor movement's a diverse movement. He manages to bring everyone together and be liked by just about everybody. So Mario, thank you. Now, thank all of you, labor leaders, people who working people who are on this Zoom, because we are here to discuss what Trump calls the big beautiful bill, but we call it the big ugly betrayal. And I want to thank Nydia Velasquez. Her name, I gave her nickname. It's one of the many things that I have done. Her nickname is La Luchadora, and I gave her that name after seeing how hard she fights. And we fought for so many things together. And the two of us have probably brought more money back to Puerto Rico than anyone ever has, which was always neglected. And so the labor leaders and the impact workers and the organizers, we're going into the final stretch, folks. We are going into the final stretch. Now, there's nothing beautiful about stripping away people's health care, about forcing kids to go hungry, about denying communities the resources they need, about increasing poverty. You know why these bastards are doing it? Why are they taking food out of a child's mouth who's hungry? Why are they cutting health care for a elderly woman who is desperate for it, or a kid who needs it? I'll tell you why. Tax cuts for their billionaire buddies. The Trump administration is the most working family administration I've ever seen. They lie, they cheat, they steal, they enrich themselves all the time. But the bottom line is, it's all for tax cuts for the wealthy. So we have to fight them every step of the way. We're making progress. We're making real progress because of the work you have done and the members of your unions have done, and because what we have done in the Senate. So a recent poll showed that now 80% of Americans know about this big, ugly betrayal. 80%. 80. And it used to be 40, then 50. As you all know, it's hard to get the word out on issues that we did on this one. And of that 80% who were for it, well, just about every Democrat is against the bill. About most of the independents are against the bill, and even 30% of the Republicans are against the bill. So we have really gotten the word out, but the Republican senators don't care. They're either right-wing MAGA ideologues or they're afraid of Donald Trump. Just look at what Mitch McConnell said just the other day at his lunch. Mitch McConnell said, you know, a couple of the senators got up and said, these cuts will hurt us so badly. And McConnell said, I know a lot of us are hearing from people back home about Medicaid, but they'll get over it. What a callous thing to say. If he needed health care for one of his kids, he wouldn't say that. And we have the same thing with Joni Ernst. Remember what she said when she was hearing about all the cuts? Well, sorry, people will die. That's what she said. And then the next day she went to a cemetery to prove it. What a
Senator, we can't hear you. There you go.
I think the mute button was clicked.
Okay, is that better?
There you go.
Yeah, but the way the screen works, it's off to the side. I put the arrow in there. Where did I lose you, Mario?
Just that she went to the cemetery. How callous was that?
Okay, good. All right. So they don't care. Here's the timing. The Republicans haven't even put their bill on the floor yet. They were supposed to do it yesterday, today, but the public is so against this bill, and we have done such a good job that they're still fighting with each other. They will put it on the floor probably Friday, and we will debate it with them. We get 20 hours of debate. And you know what we're doing here is the Republican senators don't want to tell their constituents how bad this is. So I have assigned each of 20 Democrats to take 20 Republican states, and we have a whole dossier. How many rural hospitals would close? How many people would lose Medicaid? How many jobs would they lose, et cetera? And we will call every TV station, every newspaper, every digital blog, every influencer, and tell them, tune in, because we're having a Democrat go to the floor and say how bad it is. So Amy Klobuchar will now talk about how bad this is for Iowa. And we're going to get huge listenership across the country. We're going every way we can in novel ways that we didn't do it. But they will put the bill on the floor Friday. We'll have that debate. I'll let you know, Mario, what states we are focusing on, so you can let your brothers and sisters in labor know what time their state is focusing on.
Thank you.
And then we'll do Vote-A-Rama, which allows us to do a whole lot of amendments. And usually you don't win the amendments because they, they're so afraid of Trump. But the Vote-A-Rama exposes who they are, what they believe in, and puts them, we're making them walk over shards of glass to vote for this piece of junk. Okay, that Vote-A-Rama starts sometime Saturday and may go all the way through Sunday. We'll let you know, Mario. We'll let Mario know, and he can let all of you know what's going on there. But then, because their original plan was to just have the House bill go to the Senate and the Senate vote for it. The House bill was just horrible. And we put so much heat on the Republican senators, they've made them change it. What does that mean? That means we get another shot at the House with all the votes and all the Vote-A-Rama, et cetera. And here, those of us from New York have a particular advantage because there are 7 Republican congressmen, many of whom are right on the line. We get 3 or 4 of them to vote no, we win. I have been in all 7 districts 3 times each, talking about Medicaid, talking about SNAP, talking about the loss of clean energy jobs, which when I wrote the law on the energy jobs, I made everything be union. Everything I do is union. When I first ran, it was only the unions who supported me, and you got me elected. So that night at a union hall, the first day I ran I went into Frankie, my local barber in Brooklyn. I said, Frankie, would you put a poster in the window? He said, sure, kid. And then he said, I never told you this. I'm not only the local barber, you're the local bookie. I'm the local bookie. You're the 50-to-1 underdog. And guess what? I won because I had one group on my side, labor, because my family's a labor family. So at the union hall, when I won, I said to the union leaders who were there, of little locals, you were there when I needed you. I will always be there when you need me. And look, we need it here more than ever. So then it goes to the House. So those 7 districts, put a lot of heat on them, get your members in those districts to do it, but get members outside the districts. I guarantee you, there are a lot of people in New York City who have relatives in the 2 districts on Long Island, the 1 district in the Hudson Valley, and the 3 districts upstate. And the Staten Island and New York City has 1 Republican district, Staten Island and a little bit of Brooklyn. So we can go after these people, and they are scared. What we have done in our amendments in the House and Senate, we've divided them into 5 different categories. First, the attacks on healthcare. And by the way, you know how many people will lose their jobs? More than 1 million. 1/3 of rural nursing homes will close. That helps us in the Republican areas that they're so vulnerable. And usually the rural hospital is the largest employer in the county and the only place they can get health care. 51,000 people will die. It is estimated an additional 51,000 people will die if this bill passes. And it hurts up and down the line. It hurts poor kids. It hurts veterans who are coming home. It hurts everybody. Second area is skyrocketing prices and gutting good paying jobs. The prices are going to go through the roof on this bill because interest rates are going to go up because of these tax breaks. So when you want to buy a home, buy a car, you pay your credit card debt, price is going to go up. Prices are going to go up on energy because they cut energy so badly. We'll lose 834,000 jobs just in energy alone. We're going to lose 2 million, 3 million jobs if this bill passes. And unfortunately, many of them union because all the jobs we put in last year that they're trying to take out are union. Anyway, so that's the second. The third is tax cuts for the wealthy. People hate it. They hate that they're giving tax breaks to the wealthy. And you have all the information on how the money goes there. They tried to do this in 2017, 18, when Trump was president the first time. They passed it, but we made such a big argument after the vote that they lost the election. We won back in 2018. The fourth is the corruption and chaos of the Trump administration. they're all lining their pockets, whether it's Bitcoin or these memes or whatever he does. It's incredible. And the fifth is exploding the debt. And what we found is middle of the road voters care a lot about the debt more than Democrats or Republicans. But the debt, as I said, raises your interest rates. So you got another chance to go after the House when they get the bill back again. This is not working out the way they wanted. And Thune and Johnson, the Republican speaker, are fighting. But this is just really, really important. And I hope everyone will focus on those 6 Republican districts. As I said, under healthcare, we'll give you a little thing about how it hurts. It just hurts so many people up and down the line on SNAP, which I didn't talk about. Largest cut to SNAP, food for hungry kids in the history. Guess what? They have so lowered the price that to feed a child is only $5 a day. You can't buy 12 eggs for $5 a day. And yet this is terrible. As I said, the IRA, all these windmills and solar is all being built purely with union jobs. Anybody on the construction trades is in on the call. We could lose 850,000 of those. So there's a lot to do. And remember, this fight continues. After the bill, if it passes, if we beat it, great, big victory, and we win. But if it passes, our fight continues in July and August and September as we go after these sons of guns who have voted for this terrible bill. So don't put your feet up on the desk just because at the end of June or the beginning of July the bill passed. But as I said, it's working. Tillis, Republican senator from North Carolina, handed out in his caucus how many rural hospitals would close in each state, in South Carolina, all these Republican districts. It shows you the dissension they have and the disarray they're under. Our New York Republicans are squirming. So fight, 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 everybody. This is a fight for the working people of America. This is a fight where one of our slogans is, if this bill passes, billionaires win, families lose. And that's something we tell people. Another thing we tell people is they're cutting your health care. They're cutting your food stamps. They're cutting your construction jobs, all to give tax breaks for the wealthy. People understand it. It's sinking in. Now we have to mobilize them. Please get everyone to call, write, protest, picket. Just post, just go after these guys because they're feeling the heat, and every bit of energy you put into it will make a difference. So thank you, Mario. Thank you, La Luchadora. Thank you, you great union leaders and union members. We're with you all the way. We're going to win this fight.
Thank you, Senator. Let me just say that there's no greater partner in all of this than Senator Schumer. I said it before, and I'll say it again. Senator, we have 2.5 million union members in this state.
Right.
1 out of every 7 members in the country comes from the state of New York. So we are doing everything. We're coordinating through the state. We have several hundred, participants just on this call tonight, and everybody's ready to take action. And before we leave tonight, we're going to give everyone the detailed instructions on how to get out there, make the calls, calling other union members to call members in their districts. That's what this is about tonight, mobilizing 2 million members to do as much as we can in this state, because as you said, we only need a couple of votes here.
Yep.
To get this, right? So we only need a few votes, and we can do that here in New York.
You
and
bet.
That's why we're here tonight.
And New York, we fight with Alaska to be the most unionized state.
Right.
Either they win one way or we win, but we got to keep. And one of the things we want to pass, if we get back to Senate, is the PRO Act, because we need more people in unions. That's the only way, the best way to create and keep a strong middle class. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you. Thank you. So what we'll do now is our first labor speaker tonight is Margaret Franks, who's a member of the New York State Nurses Association. She's going to be highlighting the harmful cuts to health care that are included in this bill. Margaret, thank you for being with us. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mario. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about how this bill will impact healthcare for our patients. It has been estimated that this bill will cost New York $13.5 billion in federal healthcare funding. The Fiscal Policy Institute also estimates that 79,000 healthcare jobs will be lost, in addition to over 215,000 jobs across other sectors within the state. 1.2 million New Yorkers could become newly uninsured as a result of this bill. And for nurses, that's unacceptable. I've been a nurse 11 years, 9 of those with NISNA, and I'm lucky to enjoy good healthcare coverage as part of that. I became more interested in activism during COVID when I saw how essential workers were being treated as disposable. But COVID also showed us what lack of healthcare does. It showed us how many lives were lost just because people didn't have access to healthcare. And that's something that's going to be a reality with this bill. It's not only going to cost us financially, it's going to cost us in lives across the state. I'm lucky enough to work in Poughkeepsie. I'm in Vassar Brothers Medical Center, and we've recently been taken over by Northwell. And that comes with some financial cushioning. But what about our public hospitals? What about our rural, our safety net hospitals? They do not have that cushioning. They do not have the ability to stay open, many of them. So entire hospitals could be shut across the state, as the senator said. They cannot survive these cuts. Many of their patients come in on Medicaid. So as nurses, we find that unacceptable. We believe that healthcare is a human right and that everybody should have access to this. Our Republican counterparts are downplaying the impact of this bill. They're talking about how much we will save by not being taxed on tips or overtime. But if you have lost your job as a result of that bill, then what will that matter to you? What about the other services that will also be impacted? So I ask all of you who are on this call to please raise your voice, please be heard, please do what you can to stop this bill from being passed. We know it is wrong. I'm lucky enough to be represented by Congressman Pat Ryan, and he has stood with us time and time again, especially up in Kingston when they took away the mental health and the detox beds. So we're lucky to have a fighter in our corner, but now we need you guys to be the fighters. We need you to spread out across the state and stop this bill from happening, because it will impact everyone on this call. It doesn't matter if you have Medicaid, if you have private insurance, if you get your insurance through the exchange, our costs will go up. People will delay care simply because they have no access to it. It's going to lead to longer waiting times in the ER and also staffing shortages across the state. We cannot afford this. I thank you all for the opportunity to speak with you. I thank Congresswoman Nydia Velázquez, Congress or Senator Chuck Schumer, and Mario for the opportunity to speak on behalf of NISNA. Thank you all.
Thank you, Margaret. Well said. I now have, again, another honor, and that's to introduce another great friend of the labor movement, Congresswoman Nydia Velázquez. Nydia, I just want to say, working with you on so many issues through the years, I want to thank you because I know everything that you fight for comes from your heart, and it's something you deeply believe in, which again is just to make people's lives better. Always fighting for the needs and the concerns of all workers. And I know that's something that's deep inside of you. So, Congresswoman, thank you for being here tonight, and thank you for being part of the leading of this fight. Congresswoman Nydia Velázquez.
Thank you, Mario, and thank you to all the advocates and all the organizations. We are all in this together. We must win, but in order to win, we need to organize. We need to reach out. We need to engage everyone. We have to raise awareness. And I wish that we were meeting under better circumstances, but we are at a critical moment for our state and our nation. I am not exaggerating when I say this Republican reconciliation bill is one of the most destructive and cruel pieces of legislation that I have ever seen in all my years in Congress. So let's talk about what is actually in the bill. It cuts $13.5 billion from New York's healthcare system. That means hospital losing funding. That means providers getting laid off. That means people, many of them seniors, low-income families and those with serious health conditions losing their health coverage entirely. This means people are going to die. And that is the point about this legislation, reconciliation package. Cruelty. Cruelty. Experts estimate that 1.5 million New Yorkers could lose insurance if this bill becomes law. It takes us backward and put lives at risk. Then there is the attack on food assistance. There's nothing more cruel than taking food out of children's mouths. Nearly 3 million New Yorkers rely on SNAP to put food on the table. This will force 300,000 households across the state to lose some or all of their benefits. And that is an average loss of $220 a month for families who are already struggling. We all talk about the affordability crisis that we are facing in New York City and in New York State. And to that, we add all this cut. We could spend all night talking about the damage in this bill, but the bottom line is this. It will slash the benefits that working families rely on just to hand, as Schumer put it, another huge tax break to the top 1%. So that is the bad news. The good news is that the American people are overwhelmingly against this bill. And even a recent poll by Fox News, yes, Fox News, found that 59% of Americans oppose the big ugly bill. Handful of Republicans to stop it. And that is where those Republicans are representing vulnerable, marginal districts in New York State. A few of them have even gone on record opposing the Medicaid cuts. So this is an inside-outside game. We are trying to get everyone in the Democratic caucus to oppose this bill. But you need to make phone calls. You need to show up at their offices. You gotta tell them that you not only live in their district, but you are a voter. And we need to make it clear that New Yorkers do not support this bill, that their constituents do not support this bill. And if they pass it, the people will not forget in November. So let's do what I know you do best, and that is to organize. We cannot agonize about all this cut. We need to use this energy to organize, knock on doors in those offices, make phone calls, and get constituents to show up at their doors. So, and let them know that this is a betrayal of New Yorkers. So please count on us and the leadership of Hakeem Jeffries. We are trying to get everyone on board to oppose it. And I can tell you that Speaker Johnson have a big problem because he knows that with the changes that are going to be made in the Senate, that a lot of Republicans are going to oppose the bill. So count on me. I'll be there. We will be making phone calls together, and we will be visiting some of those marginal districts in New York.
Thank you. Thank you, Nydia. Thank you so much. Thank you for being always being a friend and always, like I said, taking the lead on these issues. And we will be there. We will be fighting back, as we said. We will be making calls. We will be knocking on doors, and we're going to make the most of the 2 million members that we have in this state. So thank you, Congresswoman.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Kimberly Schmiedel, a CSEA member who's going to share her firsthand experience on the importance of funding for the SNAP food assistance program. Kimberly, thank you for being here, and the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. So again, my name is Kimberly Schmiedel. I work for Ulster County Department of Social Services. I have been there for 22 and a half years. 15 of those years I've worked in the SNAP department. And I have come across many families that I've met with, individuals, elderly, disabled. Many of these people right now rely on their SNAP benefits as their only way to provide food for their homes. Right now in Ulster County, we have a huge energy and housing crisis. We also have a job crisis. We're a rural county and there's not a lot of jobs. So again, people that are receiving SNAP benefits, many of them are hardworking families. And by the time they pay their rent of $2,300 to $3,000 a month, and they pay their Central Hudson or their NYSEG bills, there's no money left for them to pay for their food. So we have so many people, in fact, over 10,000 families in Ulster County alone receiving SNAP benefits. And if this bill were to go through and people lost their SNAP benefits, a lot of people are going to starve because they don't have the money to pay for food. Many of my coworkers also struggle. They're single moms. If this goes through and we lose jobs, then we're going to have our own coworkers and union members who are going to be without food or housing for themselves. We have many coworkers that are on the free health exchange, and they would lose that and have to get the insurance through the county at that point. So it would be very detrimental to very many people. We have the elderly, we have disabled, we have children, we have people who are on fixed incomes. And again, they can't afford to pay for their rent in their Central Hudson, never mind to pay for food. So to take their SNAP benefits away from them would be horrible. And as my director always says when we are interviewing new hires, we can live with a lot of things. We can live without clothing. We can live without a home. Food is the one thing that we cannot live without. And we cannot afford to take food away from the vulnerable community members that we have. So I think it would be very detrimental if this were to go through. And I think we need to fight as hard as we can to make it not go through.
Thank you. Thank you, Kimberly. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, and we all appreciate it. I'd now like to welcome Carol Greenberg as a community member, and she's a caregiver. She has a personal story about how cuts to Medicaid would impact her family. Carol, thank you for being here, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the AFL-CIO and Senator Schumer and Congresswoman Velasquez for inviting me to speak tonight. My name is Carol Greenberg. I am the autistic mother of an autistic 22-year-old son. His name is Aaron, and he is my greatest joy. When he was around 20 and still in school, he was a pretty good sport during the COVID lockdown, but it was clear that it was getting to him. And so every night we had given him an easel and some paintbrushes and paint, and every night he would paint something. And every morning my husband and I would come downstairs and see something that he missed from before COVID. He couldn't speak, but he could tell us through his art that he missed his school bus and he missed the local CVS sign and he missed the subway station, all that sort of thing. And every utterance, even though his language was a little bit broken, he was able to say, want to live with no parents. So we told him that we would try very, very hard. If you fast forward to now, he at 22 has graduated school. He is now taking art lessons, and through the home and community based services that he gets through Department of Developmental Disabilities and Self-Direction, now Aaron gets Medicaid, he gets SNAP, and he gets Social Security insurance. This enables him to live a life that balances self-direction and self-determination with safety. So he has quite a bit of support. But he lives in an ordinary room in an ordinary house in our neighborhood, and he loves our neighborhood. So he's much safer in our neighborhood. If, God forbid, he got separated from his direct service person who was with him that day, he would be able to find his way home because people in our neighborhood know him and can help him get home. This is a wonderful self-determined life he's lived, and he has built for himself. He is an artist, he is a gifted athlete, but cut his Medicaid, cut his SNAP, cut his Social Security insurance, and all of this that he has built goes away. It just goes away. And Nicole Maliotakis, our congressional representative here in District 11 of New York, has said that she's concerned about all of these services. She's concerned about all of the disabled people who will have their services cut, like my son. And I would like to say that if this bill passes, this supposed big, beautiful bill passes, and all of his services are cut, and all of his life that he is building goes away, I want her to come to his house and look him in the eye and tell him and explain to him in a way that any rational person can understand why this is happening to him, because it's wrong. Not only would the money that undergirds all of the services and supports he now gets disappear, but the self-respect that engenders and the dignity that every human being deserves, that engenders, that would go away too. I want her to explain that to him because I can't. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you for that very heartfelt story. Thank you. I would like to introduce a friend of mine, Randy D'Antonio, who's vice president of the Public Employees Federation, and who's going to be speaking about how this federal bill currently includes a 10-year moratorium on AI regulation. Randy, it's good to see you.
Nice to see you. Nice to see you too, President Cilento. And thank you so much for having this call tonight. Thank you to Senator Schumer and Congresswoman Velasquez and all the other leaders on this call, because not only is this an opportunity to engage in a dialogue, but it's a call to action. And Carol's words really resonate with me at what's at stake. I have been a social worker and worked for the developmental disability field for 30 years, and we all know what's at stake. I'm here as the PEF Vice President. We represent 55,000 members who work in state government in professional, scientific, and technical titles, and many issues at stake. But one of the biggest issues for our members continues to be the explosion of AI, and by extension, this prohibition on state regulation of AI that's contained in the reconciliation bill. As we all know, and most of us use AI regularly, and there's traditional and predictive systems that we've relied on. These systems help us in day-to-day life and perform very basic tasks. But the artificial intelligence world is rapidly progressing towards generative AI that have self-learning capabilities. They're capable of unilaterally implementing decisions or taking actions based on existing data or data that the AI system generates itself. I mean, we are truly living in the future world, and without guardrails in place, there is much at stake. This could mean artificial intelligence systems, not humans, not us, are making determinations on Social Security, disability services, eligibility for mortgages and car loans, and on and on and on. And while we know there is great promise in artificial intelligence, and like any new technology, we're excited about that, there is also great peril. And for example, there was a recent experiment where a generative AI system was given control over a fictional email account And that AI system read through all the emails and discovered that a company executive was having an affair. He looked at those emails and attempted to blackmail the executive, threatening to reveal it because the executive was going to shut down the AI systems. I'm sorry, my dog always barks when I'm talking. Now, this system was able to do that in real life, and it's really scary stuff that's happening. So right now, there are a few federal or state regulations to protect against this major problem. Here in New York, we've been working to secure laws to help regulate AI. And with the support of Governor Hochul, we have a law right now that requires the state to disclose where, when, and how it is using AI. This law protects our members from losing jobs due to the implementation of AI. We're also working to secure additional laws. I'm sorry. Dogs don't listen when they're not supposed to. Additional laws requiring human oversight, but there's much more regulation to do, and that's in its infancy stages. PEF is really concerned about this moratorium. If this gets enacted, not only do we lose the future gains we might make, we're going to regroup and regress and negate the gains we already made. So including this in here is a nightmare for us. We're asking all our members, we're asking all of you, call your congressional representatives, particularly in Republican districts, and put pressure on them to get this out of there. We have to have the ability to put guardrails in place to protect our jobs and protect us from, AI systems that are not going to be helpful to us. Thank you so much, and I apologize about my dog.
No problem, Randy. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'd like to welcome next Laura Franz, who's a member of the New York State United Teachers. And Laura will be sharing with us the bill's impact on public education. Laura, thank you for being here with us tonight, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Good evening. Let me begin by thanking you, Senator Schumer, Congresswoman Velasquez, and of course you, President Cilento, for the opportunity to share from my perspective the devastating impact this bill will have on particularly public education. As a 30-year public school teacher in the Albany City Schools, I am struggling with so many aspects of this bill. Chief among them is my deep concern for our most vulnerable children, our students with disabilities, as Medicaid is the vital funding source for so many of the critical services that are literally life-changing. In our schools, speech language services, physical and occupational therapy, social work services are all primarily funded through Medicaid. If the proposed gutting of Medicaid goes through, districts will have little choice but to drastically reduce, if not cut altogether, those services. In our Albany schools, I think about the many autism classrooms that serve nonverbal children who would lose their speech services. Classrooms where children with physical disabilities would no longer be able to build those critical life skills that ultimately provide a foundation for a dignified and hopefully more independent life. And for me, this isn't just conjecture on my part. This is part of my family's lived experience. Because besides being a teacher, I'm a mom to two young men with autism. Both our boys were completely nonverbal until they were 6 or 8 and 8 years old. And our oldest, well, he just sat for the English and the U.S. history regents. And our youngest asked me where I was going tonight. So to be clear, there's no doubt that this has all been made possible by their public schooling and all the services and support that have been given. Services funded through Medicaid. And I very intentionally note their public school experience because another really scary component of this bill is the massive expansion of a national voucher program. I think so many people think that vouchers are a great idea because they allow for parent choice without really considering the limitation of those choices. I can tell you that my sons would never have been welcomed into the private or charter schools in our area because of their needs. Public schools are critical to our communities and frankly to our democracy because every student is welcomed and met where they are. Our focus needs to be on doing more and everything in our power to strengthen our public schools and not siphoning off critical funds to a voucher program that frankly is really being proposed to dismantle public education and further divide between those who have or have not in this nation. I thank you again for allowing me to share my perspective along with so many advocates this evening, and for all we are all going to do and for all you are doing to push back on this horrible bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you very much. Next, we have Tyler Roylance, who's a member of the OPEIU, and he's going to be discussing the impact of the cuts to federal agencies. Tyler, thank you for being here with us tonight. The floor is yours.
Thanks very much. My name's Tyler Roylance. I'm a New York-based staff editor at Freedom House, which is a nonpartisan nonprofit organization founded in 1941 to promote democracy and human rights around the world. I've been with Freedom House for 18 years, but we unionized with OPEIU Local 153 2 years ago, and I was on the bargaining committee that signed our first union contract last November. I have to say I'm a pretty nonpartisan guy myself. But as a result of the administration's cuts to USAID and other democracy-related programs, Freedom House has had to lay off about 80% of its staff, including almost 90% of our bargaining unit. So coming off of a big success with the contract, we took a very big hit. We've also had to close our New York office, and we've closed or scaled back several projects that I worked on, including our flagship publication, Freedom in the World, which has rated the level of political rights and civil liberties in every country in the world for the past 50 years. It's now operating with a skeleton crew, and it's publishing abridged reports. Another project that's on life support is the China Dissent Monitor, which is an interactive database that records acts of protest and dissent across China. And importantly for this audience, the bulk of these incidents actually involve Chinese workers fighting for their labor rights. So I think it's in the interests of workers in the United States, as well as anyone who is interested in leveling the playing field, to care about the labor rights of Chinese workers who are fighting against a regime that denies them the sort of organizing and association rights that we have here. Freedom House is now very focused on private fundraising, but so is everybody else in the nonprofit sector that's been devastated by these cuts. So personally, I'm hoping Congress will be able to at least restore funding for independent institutions like the National Endowment for Democracy, which has supported our work for decades. I'm just afraid that that sort of spending won't be possible if the reconciliation bill gets passed and ends up making the budget deficit even worse. And we're going to hear more cries for cuts as things continue to erode. So I just want to ask everyone here to please keep pushing back on these incredibly destructive policies, which have ramifications well beyond New York State and the United States itself. And thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Tyler. Appreciate it. Our final speaker this evening is Nicole Adams. Nicole comes from my union, CWA. Nicole has a personal story to share about the impact of Medicaid cuts. Nicole, thank you for being here, and the floor is yours.
Thank you for having me. My story is really personal. I have worked at the same company for 28 years. I'm lucky to have health insurance. I'm also a president of CWA Local 1111, upstate New York. I have many members that aren't as lucky as I am to have health insurance, so they rely on Medicaid. But again, this story is very personal. Approximately 8 years ago, I gained custody of 4 of my nephews. My sister had a drug issue, so she lost custody of them, and they were going to go in the foster care system, so I took them in. After about 3 years, 3 of them went back to her. The oldest asked to stay with me because his life was tumultuous, and he remembered a lot of bad things. So my sister agreed to share custody of my nephew with me. Because I don't have full custody of him, it's joint custody because he's not my biological child, because I cannot get him put on my health insurance. There's no way to. My employer will not allow that. So he's on Medicaid. When I got him, again, 8 years ago, he was failing school. He wasn't doing well. And after about a year or 2 years, it was determined that he had some hearing issues. He's had to have many ear surgeries that he's had to use Medicaid to pay for. It would have broken me. These surgeries would have broken me. The cost of them, again, no insurance. I recently adopted 2 foster children, so I don't know where any of us would be if he didn't if he didn't have the Medicaid. He is now doing extremely well, excelling in school. He's taking ACE classes, college classes in the 10th grade. But again, if it wasn't for Medicaid, if this bill goes through, he's going to lose his Medicaid. And it's not just him. There's going to be so many children that are affected, and it's not fair. So some rich billionaire can save money and get a tax cut. Children are going to go hungry. They're going to go without insurance. They're going to go without health care. It's personal. It's extremely personal. And again, this is just me. This is somebody who's had worked for the same company for 28 years. There's so many people that are doing so much worse than me. One health crisis, one health problem literally is going to be the difference between whether these people are homeless or can't eat. I just can't imagine. I just can't imagine. Thank you for listening to my story.
Thank you, Nicole, and thank you for sharing obviously a very personal story. And it's very brave of you to do that. And so I want to thank you. I want to thank, that's our last speaker. I'd like to thank Senator Schumer and Congresswoman Nydia Velázquez. I want to thank them both for their leadership and support. I want to thank everyone who spoke tonight and shared their stories and the impact it's going to have on them and their families and all of our members across the state. I also want to take a moment just to thank everyone who joined this discussion tonight. I know we had several hundred participants on this call tonight. And I know it's difficult to hear some of these personal stories we just heard, but there is some good news here. We can fight back, and that's what we do best. And I'm not going to give a rah-rah speech here, but I am going to say we do have it in our power, and we have the ability to make a difference. If I didn't think that was the case, we wouldn't be on this call tonight. So here's what we can do to help. To everyone on this call, to the hundreds of us who are on this call tonight, we are going to host federal fight back phone banks on Zoom every evening between 6 and 8 p.m. It's to call union members in New York across the state, educate them on what's at stake in this reconciliation bill, and then connect those union members with their member of Congress to tell them to vote no, unless there are changes made, so that the final bill benefits working people, not just the ultra wealthy. Okay. Again, keep in mind, and I talked about this, and Senator Schumer talked about this. The first bill passed by 1 vote. So we only need a few members of Congress to step up and do the right thing. As the senator pointed out, the bill is in the Senate. They set a deadline of July 4th. We'll see where that goes. But what it really does mean is that now is the time to act. That's why we're having this call tonight. To participate and to help beat back this bill, all you need is a computer and a phone. There's a comprehensive training session that's conducted at the beginning of every Zoom meeting. Your personal phone number won't be shown. There is a link in the chat right now to sign up for the phone banks. We also have an email address in that chat. If you have questions about the campaign and how to be involved in any of the questions, they will be answered immediately. This is our opportunity to make a difference. We talk about having 2 million members. We talk about how strong we are. Well, we have to show it. We have to show it. I opened tonight by saying actions speak louder than words. This is our chance. Very rarely do you have it in your own hands to make a difference. We have it in our own hands to make a difference, not only for ourselves, not only for our family members, but for the entire country. We literally have it in our own hands by being part of this. So I want to say thank you for being part of this tonight. I want to thank every single one of you who's going to be a part of this endeavor. And I want to just thank you for being who you are and for allowing us to be what we are here in New York State. We are the strongest. We are the most successful state labor movement in this country. And it's because of each and every one of you on this call. Thank you, everyone. Good night and be well. And let's fight on. Thank you.